Okay. The consequences when you impurify your body, when you put yourself in a state of lower vibration, VI, intoxicant, or other impurifying substance or etc., beverage, whatever. When you put things in your body that take away from its purity, you leave yourself susceptible to spirits as well as impure thoughts and actions. You know, when you're impurifying your vessel, you're lowering your body's vibration, making yourself spiritually less strong, making yourself less defendable spiritually. As a result, you may make the wrong decisions. You may be overtaken unawares and be puppeteered by a wicked controller. You know, these are the things that could happen. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I decided to drink a few days ago, and I got a bigger bottle than I usually do when I do decide to drink. So I ended up drinking for 2 days. As a result, I decided to buy a second bottle because by the time I finished the first one on the second day, I didn't feel as though I was where I wanted to be. So I bought another bottle, and I only took a sip out of that one and brought myself further than I wanted to be, because in the midst of being intoxicated, I decided I wanted to go and get some marijuana. A thought and a decision I would not have made had I not drank in the first place. So I ended up spending some money to go get some marijuana, and I smoked, and the smoking in conjunction with the drinking made me get further than I wanted to be. So I came back and I went to sleep. When I woke up today, which would have been the third day, I still had pretty much a whole bottle left of the second bottle I got. I only had took one sip out of it. So on my Sabbath, I woke up and I already failed to do some of the things that I meant to do in preparation for my Sabbath. So as soon as I woke up, I had to decide, do I want to violate my Sabbath and do something that I was supposed to do last night beforehand? Or do I just want to wait and take whatever consequence comes? So I ended up making the mistake, but not a mistake, a willful wrong decision to do a transaction in the morning during my Sabbath. So as a result of my drinking the night before and the lowered vibration that was the consequence of my drinking, I violated my Sabbath. I did something that I was not supposed to do. I made a transaction. Even though it was only from my account to another one of my accounts, it still was something that could have waited till sunset. And though it may have cost me, or it wouldn't have cost me, regardless of what, it was something that did not need to be done right then and there, that would have already been done had I not chose to drink, and that still could have been waited for, and I probably certainly would have decided to wait for it had I not been drinking. So I made the willful wrong decision to make a transaction in the morning. Then I convinced myself that, you know what, I don't want to go into my next week drinking or smoking. I still had a joint and almost a whole bottle left. I said, you know what, I'm going to smoke and drink today. Even though I'm not supposed to light a lighter, I'm still going to do it. So then I did a video before I even did it, explaining my plans, my willful wrong, and explaining the psychology behind it. Now, the psychology behind the willful wrong is the purpose of this video, and I'm about to get into it. Now, we as a people are supposed to be holy and righteous, but we were impurified due to a willful wrong taking place. When I was incarnated as Adam, my wife that I created for myself was convinced by my fallen wife to take something that was bad for her. A willful wrong. Had she not taken what was bad for her, none of these dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of incarnations would have been necessary. Had my wife that was created from me when I was Adam not did a willful wrong, I wouldn't be here having this conversation right now, because Lucille would have been back in heaven with me. None of this would have been necessary. But my wife chose to do a willful wrong that was inspired by another wife that did a willful wrong. So all in all of the suffering and everything that's taken place from the beginning of time here on this earth and before has all been because of a willful wrong. Doing something intentionally, knowing it was wrong. That's what it's all about. So, back then, my wife was convinced she did a willful wrong, and then she came and convinced me to do the willful wrong. This is the whole thing. My wife was just a duplicate of my wife, but she was a pure duplicate. She wasn't impurified. So then my wife from above that was cast down, Lucille, caused her to become impurified, effectively making her vessel get taken over by the wicked one of herself. So basically, she took over herself. I made duplicates of us, pure, and she contaminated the duplicates of us intentionally to make them just like the duplicates above, fully aware. And in doing so, brought upon us shame and impurity. So there's a book, the book of Proverbs. In the book of Proverbs, the last book, the last chapter, 31 of Proverbs, discusses leadership, discusses the requirements of being a king. And in it, the mother of the mule says, "Know, my son. Know, O son of my womb. Know, O son of my vows. Do not give your strength to women, your vigor to those who destroy kings. Wine is not for kings, O Lemuel, not for kings to drink, nor any strong drink for the princes, lest they drink and forget what has been ordained, and infringe on the rights of the poor. Give strong drink to a hapless, and wine to the embittered. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and put their troubles out of their mind. Speak up for the dumb, for the rights of all of the unfortunate. Speak up, judge righteously, champion the poor and the needy." So this proverb goes into finding the right wife. You know, it says, what a rare find is a capable wife. Her worth is far beyond that of rubies. And it continues. Nonetheless, the purpose of this chapter is to instruct kings on what not to do, not to impurify themselves, and not to give themselves up over to lust or sexual desires, over what destroys kings, which is women and intoxication. And it doesn't mean all women, only unholy women, impure women, women that are sexualized and after the lust of your eye and not after righteousness and purity. So I chose this chapter to coincide with this video because the fact of the matter is all of us as a people are easily overtaken by the things that we indulge in, by the things that allure our eye, as well as the things that we put into our body. We're overtaken. And once you have these impurities in you, it's not easy to make the right decision. It's much easier to make the wrong one because you've already dulled your senses. You already lowered yourself and made yourself at a disadvantage immediately. You put yourself in a position of a disadvantage automatically because you're not functioning at your highest, most pure level. And this is the whole point about willful wrongs. When you do something willfully, knowing that it is not the correct path, then you leave yourself open to the consequences because you willfully chose this instead of turning the other way and doing what is right versus continuing on a path of a wrong. So earlier I was going to share the video, and I still had the bottle and I still had the marijuana. And I had every intention of finishing that bottle and smoking all the marijuana. So then I took a sip of the bottle, and immediately the sip gave me a little bit of a feeling because I just drank the night before. So it was already in me. So adding a little more reactivated what was already in me. At that point, I decided to go and light my joint, which I should not have done on the Sabbath, but nonetheless, I went and did it. I lit my joint, started walking around smoking, and I smoked about 2/3 of it. At which point, I decided to throw it in the ashtray and not smoke anymore. I realized there's no sense in me keeping it for later, because then I might just do the same thing again. So I threw it in the ashtray. Then I went back inside. Then I looked at the bottle, and I thought, and I said, you know what? I already did 2 wrongs today. The first wrong was doing a transaction in the morning. The second wrong was lighting that joint. I was like, I'm not going to do a third wrong and start drinking. Even though the drinking itself isn't the wrong, the lowering myself is. So I took that bottle and I said, Abba, count this as my first act of requesting forgiveness for this transgression. And I dumped the entire bottle down the sink. And it wasn't a big bottle. Doesn't matter the size. It was the symbology of looking at something that I knew was the wrong path and then deciding not to go there no more. And ending it by pouring it into the sink. At that point, I ate, I slept some more, whatever, and I did what I'm supposed to do on my Sabbath. I rested. And now here I am doing a video to conclude the evening and explain myself. So the reason I did this, the reason why I made this decision, the reason why I did a willful wrong is because over the course of the last few days, I've been indulging. And as a result of that, I lowered myself. I lowered my ability to be strong in the spirit and make the right decisions when I'm faced with 2 options. And this lesson was in order that I could see again from the perspective of my subjects, my wives, my brides, the ones that are around them, that all indulge in things daily. And as a result, are in a lower state of consciousness, a lowered state of spiritual strength. They're not strong because they're impure. They have the wrong things in them. So I have to realize a little bit more on their level now that I did this these last couple of days of how easy it is to make the wrong decision when faced with the options of either indulging and lowering yourself or looking the other way and lifting yourself up. And this is the reason why so many people are accepting of the worst of conditions. This is the reason why so many people sit by and tolerate what is non-tolerable, what is intolerable, what should not be accepted. It's easy to accept what should not be accepted when you've lowered yourself via intoxication, via contamination, impurity, because you lowered yourself. And it could be anything. It could be a Xanax, it could be a pill, it could be an energy drink, it could be a vape, it could be a cigarette, it could be marijuana, it could be anything that you use to lower yourself, to make yourself pacified and accepting of your situation. This is the world we live in, unfortunately. And it doesn't even have to be an intoxicant. It could be internal stimuli coming from something on your screen. You could be looking at something like this all day, watching soap operas and shows and different things. And it's what you use to pacify yourself to accept the situation you're stuck in. And why is that? Because you are distracting your mind from what it is you're supposed to be doing, which is serving God and living naturally, living in harmony with nature. The problem is there's no nature to live in harmony with, because everything has become cities and electronics and marketing, billboards, and all of this nonsense that you hear on their radio transmissions 24 hours a day. It's just nonstop. You're getting bombarded with all of this overload of information to the point where your mind is constantly cycling it even when it's not playing. You're cycling what you've done seen on a commercial a million times, what you heard on your radio 1,000 times. It's all cycling in your head. When you're walking into the supermarket and they got the same songs on repeat every time you're there, it cycles into your head. So even when you're laying down and you're supposed to be relaxing, you still have these thoughts, these cues that are pinging in your head when you're not paying attention. And it's all subconscious, and yet it affects you. It affects you. It affects you. And this is the reality. So, how do you get over this? How do you overcome the constant subconscious attack that you're under from all of the stimuli that you're absorbing on a daily basis? The first way you overcome it is by purifying your vessel. That is the absolute number one way to overcome it. Because once you purify your vessel, you raise yourself to your highest spiritual level and your ability to overcome all that's designed to destroy you. You're not pacified anymore once you purify your vessel. Even if you still have all of this external stimuli affecting your subconscious, you've raised yourself to the point where you're no longer physically pacifying yourself, therefore giving yourself spiritual power to overcome. And that's the whole key. The key to raising yourself from the despair and the destitute situation you've accepted is by purifying your vessel. That way you could spiritually fight for what you're meant to be here for. And it ain't watching TV. It isn't listening to music. It isn't playing games and typing in code. That's not what you're meant to be here for. That is what you were distracted and diverted into doing by the ones that are controlling you as puppeteers via everything they put into you and everything they influence you with that surrounds you. You have to break free, just like I do. So everybody could slip up. Everybody can make a bad decision on their path once in a while. But what you gain from these slips, what direction they propel you in from them, is the whole point of it. It's the refinement process. So when you make a slip, if you learn nothing from it, if you gain nothing from it, if you continue the same pattern after making the slip, then you've obviously not raised yourself. If you allowed yourself to be brought to the lowest of lows, and then were given another path, but chose to stay on that same lowest of low path, then obviously you have not raised yourself. And you have to ask yourself, why am I still in this same spot when I had another route, but I'm back here? What is it that's contributing to me bringing myself back here to this low when I have another path? And it's what you put in your body and what you accept from those around you. Them two things is your answer. What is in me and what am I accepting? There you go. Free yourself. Choose the other path.